Hello and welcome back to another FPL Forbesy video. It's wonderful to have you with me here today. If you're new, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe, hit that like, as well as that notification bell so you know when we will be releasing our next video. In today's video, we're going to be looking at some of the FPL experts, teams, and where the Fantasy Football Fix Opta Stats place them within the next 5 game weeks and how many points they predict these teams will be making. Now, of course, it is predicted from game week 1 to game week 5, and naturally after the first game week, those first transfers will start to happen. Many of the experts are saying that they will be using their wildcard draft between game week 4 and game week 6. Many are hoping that they won't have to play an early wildcard and are hoping to only play it in game week 9 or 10 when there is a fixture swing. However, I thought it would be interesting to compare a few of the drafts from a few of the people that I follow and enjoy their content, and just to see completely objectively how many points the statistics and the computers are saying about them. But stay to the end because I've added in a 5th draft as well, which you can do on Fantasy Football Fix, which by the way is not the sponsor of this video. However, I do find that their tool is very helpful in building my game week 1 squad and of course moving into the season. Now, the first draft, let's get stuck in. I'm going to bring up the screen here. Now, the first draft is based on Andy at Let's Talk FPL. Like many folks, he's gone with Sanchez in the goals. He's gone Kufal, Shaw, Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course TTA, the legend, the beast, and a few of the big hitters, of course, in Salah and Fernandez. And it's got a trio up front, which I have seen a lot of with Tony, DCL, and of course Antonio. Now, the interesting part about this is if we scroll down, get the draft comparison. Now, I've done 5 drafts for you today. The first one, Andy, Let's Talk FPL. It recommends, or it believes at least, that he is predicted to get 262 odd points in those first 5 game weeks. As we see above here, predicted points over the first 5 game weeks. This will be calculated when you have a full squad for each draft, which we of course have done. So remember that at 262. Now, what I've noticed particularly with Andy's draft is that there are a couple of, for me personally, I think moving on a 4 million defender is going to be quite tricky, but he's of course done that to allow funds elsewhere in the side, particularly those big hitters like TTA. But of course, he could downgrade any of these players and pick up another nice 4.5 million defender option if he wants to, which he mentions in his video. So please go ahead and check out Andy at Let's Talk FPL. He gives a whole breakdown of this whole squad. But we're just looking at the point projections for those first 5 game weeks. So let's move on to draft number 2. Now, draft number 2 is from Simply FPL. Go and check him out in the link in the description below. Fantastic team as well. Pretty different from what I've seen before. Let's just look at that starting lineup. Firstly, we have Sanchez again in goal and TTA, Van Dijk, a double Liverpool defense, which I have seen quite a few folks going for. And there is, of course, that debate whether to have Robbo in instead of Van Dijk. But of course, that price difference means that there has to be sacrifices elsewhere. He's also put in 2 Leeds midfielders, which is an interesting combination. They don't have a fantastic start. They're open against Man United, but they do have fairly favourable fixtures moving forward. A nice pick that I like from him is Tiamo Pukki from Norwich, a proven FPL asset from the 2018-2019 season, if I'm not mistaken, and again, very good. He's also gone for Tony up front. Many folks are, and they're betting that he's going to go through and make a good first few game weeks. Now, on the bench, he's got Steele, Fofana, Digny, and Gilmore. Again, Gilmore pops up, and it's going to be a running theme through the rest of the draft as well. People are thinking that he's going to do some really nice things at Norwich this season, and of course, is at that nice bracket of 4.5 million. Digny is, there's been a lot of talk of the great Everton fixtures, and Digny is certainly someone to keep your eye on. Of course, didn't have a great Euros with France, didn't play too much, and did pick up an injury, if not mistaken. But many folks, of course, like the look of Fofana as well. And if we scroll down, we will go to the points projection. Now Andy from Let's Talk FPL is 262. Simply FPL is going to get about 263. This is over 5 game weeks, of course, if he's stuck with the same team, which people won't be. And who is mystery draft number 3? Well, let's head up there. Draft number 3 is from FPL mate Dan the Man, who I enjoy a lot of his content. By the way, go and check his link out in the description below, and go and check out some of his videos. Now he has also gone for Sanchez in goals, got TTA, got the likes of Shaw. Lamptey is also Lamptey rather, has also been quite a popular pick. Did have some injuries last season, so has been taken out for the likes of Ben White, who's been rumored to be moving to Arsenal. So yes, but what's interesting about Dan FPL mate is that he's gone for a 4-3-3 formation, of course, and he doesn't have Fernandes. Very interesting. Talks about how Fernandes trailed off at the end of last season. Did not have the best time in the Euros for Portugal, and perhaps needs a bit of time to settle back in and get up to speed again in the Premier League, which is not bad thinking, to be honest. Where in comparison, Kevin De Bruyne, of course, had a lovely time playing with Belgium and looked really good, even though his face got pretty whacked in. Another pick which I found very interesting is Buendia, been rated very highly and comes in at a very good price point at that 6.5 million. There's a couple of 6.5 to 7.5 options as well, but again, will we see him thrive in that Aston Villa team? Will he need some time? We simply don't know. But Dan the Man seems to think that he's going to slot right in there, and why not when you have Watkins to aim for up front as well, and of course the likes of Jack Grealish. He has gone with a little bit of a heavier up front, doesn't have Tony, but has DCL, Watkins, and of course Antonio. All got favourable fixtures and have all proven assets, all at that lovely 7.5, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin 8 million. Another pick which I thought was quite nice was this Brian Mbuemo, and he's been favoured ahead of Tony from that Brentford team. Seems to be playing in the midfield position, but does play alongside Tony up front, sometimes in a 2 up front formation. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye out there. And Dan the Man, thank you for sharing your tips with us today. He's also gone with Kelly as a 4 million enabler on the bench, but at the moment seems to be starting for Crystal Palace because of the Ferguson injury. Has Basuma as well, only there really as a filler as well at 4.5 million. Starts every game, so hopefully won't drop in value. And Foster as well, again an enabler. Goalkeeper, going to be sticking with Sanchez up front. Now let's scroll down to see how many points this Opta Stats predicts. And there we are, 264. Very similar to the 263 of Simply FPL, and very similar again to 262 from Andy at Let's Talk FPL. Now, let's take a look at number 4. Who is draft number 4? Draft number 4 is one of my favorites, and it's from Fancy Football Hub, Will. And the last draft that he did is looking a little bit like this. Now, Will has gone for Mezia in goal, different to, of course, that Sanchez pick, and it'll be interesting to see where that ends up over the first few game weeks. I noted as well that a lot of the experts are saying that they don't really want to think about changing out their goalkeeper. They're hoping that they can have the goalkeeper in and be there for at least 6 game weeks. But, of course, that is a bit tricky when you're not going for the likes of Alisson and Edison, who, let's be quite honest, are your highest potential of getting clean sheets, but are in that expensive range. Mezia, if I'm not mistaken, is at 5 million. Yes, there he is. So that 0.5 million more than Sanchez. At the back, he's got a starting 3, Shaw, TTA, and again, there we see a bit of Lamptey as well from Brighton. Brighton have got very good fixtures. And if you haven't seen the video where I look at the fixture analyzer, please go ahead and check that link out. But Lamptey looks really good and probably someone to keep your eye on if he can stay fit. Midfield has got the regular big hitters in Salah and Fernandes, Rafinha and Grealish. Grealish I haven't seen, to be honest, in too many drafts, and I'm not sure why, but they have gone more for the Buendia option at 6.5 as opposed to 8 million, which allows a heavier up front, and as well as those nice big hitters at the back like Robinson, TTA, Van Dijk, and so on and so forth. So not many drafts have Grealish in, and I think it's probably a very, very good move, and I'll be interested to see where Grealish ends up. And of course, that 3 up front, which we've seen fairly regularly, of Watkins, Antonio, and Tony. On the bench, he's got Enabler and Steer, Ayling, and of course Nico Williams, who's rumored to be having a loan move away. I don't know much about that, but we will see how that pans out. And again, you have Gilmour here as this 4.5 million enabler in the midfield. Now that of course means that he's going to be playing a 3-4-3 formation, and if we scroll down the points according to Fantasy Football Fix projection over the next 5 game weeks, 261. Now it's time for my favorite part of the video. We're going to be looking at draft number 5, which I have tinkered and played with right here on the squad creator on Fantasy Football Fix, and it is telling me that I have the best draft according to the Opta Stats. So let's check it out. Now here it is. Let's start in the goal with Alisson. Safe bet. I talked about the rotation of goalkeepers. There are different strategies, going for 4.5 options, or going for that premium option and then a 4 million enabler. Now I have here put in Alisson in the goals. I mean, got a lot of points last season, and Liverpool did not, let's be honest, have their best season, having Van Dijk injured early on. So Alisson's in my goal. We've got Shaw, who, just keep an eye out, seems to have been reported to have a rib injury and may be out for the first few game weeks. So keep an eye out on that. But at a lovely 5.5 million, you can bring in a few other defenders, the likes of Digny. I think I'd probably bring in Digny. But if we need to transfer him out because he won't be starting, I like also the look of Wan-Bissaka. So in the middle here, we have Semedo from Wolves. Again, not a pick I've seen a lot of people making, so maybe a nice differential for you. And not TTA, but rather Robinson, and that's simply because the rest of the team I can't afford the likes of Kane, who you see up front there. So in my midfield then, moving on to Salah, who will be the permanent captain, I would imagine, in this draft. Then the likes of Sarr, which I've seen, I think, in one other draft. He has, of course, doesn't have a lot of that Premier League experience, not Premier League proven, but did have that season. I think it was also 18-19, and ended the season very strong. He also, by reports that I've read, had a very strong end to the season with Watford under their new manager. So Sarr is definitely someone to keep an eye out on, and Watford have a few favourable fixtures. Then the lovely Souček, who I think is an absolutely must-have. West Ham have got some favourable fixtures, not their best, but if someone's going to be scoring a goal, Souček seems to be there or thereabouts. Of course, from set pieces, corners, so on and so forth, very good in the air. So Souček's in as well. Then up front, the mighty Kane, which has basically molded the rest of the team. Because he's at such a high price point, it means that you have had to make sacrifices in and around the pitch. Just like Alisson at the back at 6 million, again, very expensive, and that's where we've had to make sacrifices with this draft. But the likes of Tony, who I have my doubts about, but he's in at a 6.5. Of course, if he doesn't prove himself, he can be moved to the bench or transferred out. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of options at the 6.5 million range. However, Troy Deeney at 5.5, as well as Joshua King at 5.5 million, could be a great replacement if it looks like he is going to be going down in price point, but we will have to see. Now, of course, Watkins up front as well. Aston Villa have very nice fixtures. I think they're swinging about game week 4, so maybe look to take him out, bring the likes of Antonio in at that 7.5 million bracket. There's a lot of other players who you can look to bring in as well. Now on my bench, I have Foster, again, a keeper who's enabling. I then have Kelly, and Kelly, as I mentioned before from FPL Mates, is that he looks like he's going to be starting at right back or potentially at centre back for Crystal Palace. So having a 4 million almost guaranteed starter, not 100%, don't take my word for it, but is not bad at all. Almaty again for Leicester. Leicester have some favourable fixtures, but I don't think he's going to start. And then I have I said I have Rafinha on the bench here. I was saying before Harrison, but I'd probably put Rafinha in as well. And of course, Rafinha is good cover for the likes of Sarr and Souček if they don't play well. And if I want to play 5 in the midfield, bring out Tony if he's not the bona fide champion of all champions that they say he is. So with this draft, what the Fantasy Football Fix predictor is putting me on in terms of points is 272. That's a good 10 points more than all of these other FPL experts. Now, let's be honest here for a second. This draft, for me personally, I think doesn't look better than any of the other drafts. And I would be nervous going in for these players myself. I mean, if I look at Semedo there for Wolves, he's got Leicester, Tottenham, and Manchester United as their first 3 fixtures. Not easy fixtures for Wolves. And because they've got a new manager as well, we do not know where or how strong they'll be defensively. But having said that, this is what the squad creator at Fantasy Football Fix is telling me, that we should be looking for these players, and this draft should technically be beating all the other drafts. Whether or not that's going to be true, I don't know, but I hope it's put some thoughts into the likes of getting a premium goalkeeper and the likes of Kane versus getting Fernandes instead. If you enjoyed the content today, please go ahead and hit that subscribe, that like, as well as that notification bell so you know when we'll be releasing our next video. This is FPL Forbesy, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye.